And we are ready to go with Bamidbar, in the desert or in the wilderness. First chapter in the fourth book of the Torah. It opens with God instructing Moses to conduct yet another census, this time of all the men 20 years old and older. Here's how that head count looked to 19th century French artist and illustrator Henri Félix Emmanuel Philippeteau, a Paris native who is best known for gigantic panoramic battle scenes, such as this image of Waterloo. In the woodcut of The Numbering of the Israelites, Philippeteau shows a seated Moses looking on as the Israelite bookkeeper records the count. He's not mentioned by title in the Bible. It had to be there because taking all these numbers, the bookkeeper records the count as thousands more men spread throughout the encampment waiting their turn. Men, because this census only counted the men. The text goes on to command that the tribes will set up their tents, each under their own banner, around the tent of meeting, the Mishkan, and when they break camp, each will travel behind their banner. And that's been a favorite artistic subject. These elaborate mosaics of the 12 tribes and symbols representing them are on the exterior of Etz Yosef synagogue on Harov Gold in the Givat Mordechai section of Jerusalem. The mosaic themes continue inside this elaborately decorated shul. Here's the bima, and more detailed mosaics of the tribes go around the wall of the upper balcony. This abstract take on that theme is from American-born Israeli artist Yoram Ranaan, who uses broad strokes to suggest the movement of the people with streaks of blue between them, perhaps a reference to a midrash that said streams of water separated the tribes. Here are the 12 flags, 12 tribes by Anna Fine-Four, who puts together traditional paper and textile collages and then manipulates them with computer imagery. At the center, she puts a square containing a cloud to represent the Mishkan, and surrounding the tabernacle, the names of the tribes, along with maps of their eventual promised land territory. Born in Colorado, Anna Fine-Four majored in fiber crafts at Philadelphia College of the Arts, after which she emigrated to Israel, continuing her artistic studies there and then in London, and now she lives and works in Baltimore, Maryland. This is Bamidbar by Nira Or, the Parsha art collaboration of artist Lizzie Sivitz and her partner Rabbi Haley Goldstein. Beams of light emanate from the Mishkan, along with the named tribes arrayed around it. In her commentary along with Lizzie's art, Rabbi Haley writes that the Hebrew word for count can also mean raise. So Moshe's census was not merely a counting, but a raising, a reminder that every single person's importance, a reminder of every people's importance, and the unique holiness that they can bring to the world. From the Women of the Book collection of 54 original artists by 54 Jewish women artists from around the world, Bamidbar is by Doni Silver Simons, a multimedia artist who lives and works in L.A. She explains, within its deceptive simplicity, the repetitive mark offers much information. It speaks about intervals and alludes to the counting, to recording, to time, to density, and to place. The subtle variation of each individual mark begins to exert itself when there are many marks present, and each mark exists within its own space, as do individual people. That's from Donnie Silver Simons in Women of the Book, and I got a little out of order there. This is Swiss-born Karen Foreman, who now lives and works in the Northern California city of Santa Rosa. She uses a variety of media, from photography and digital art to classical paintings, for her Parshot illustration series, from which this is the Bamidbar entry, depicting a key passage from near the end of the Parsha, the 5 shekels of silver that are to be given to the Kohen for the redemption of the firstborn. The designs she chose, based on actual coins from ancient Israel, the sort that might have been used for the rituals in the Jerusalem temple. And let me jump ahead to where I wanted to be here now. It's often pointed out that women are not included in this God-ordered census, and American-born Israeli computer artist Safira Lightstone takes note of that in this image, created to accompany a Chabad commentary by Chana Weisberg entitled Don't Women Count?, which stretches to Kabbalah for an explanation that the masculine is an outward bound force while the feminine is inward bound. So men wage war while women protect, nurture, discover, and reveal the holiness implicit in creation. And while the artist seems comfortable with some of the orthodox practices, such as hair covering for women, she also uses her art to advocate for equal treatment. That's from Saphira Lightstone, and that is her art for Bamidbar, all modern artists.
Thank you.
And at this point, we have our Misha Berach, and I was hoping that Ruth Ellen would be here to sing. Otherwise, we'll have to do it. But this is an opportunity to mention the names of anyone. And I'll start. I want to mention my brother-in-law, Dr. Charles Lightdale, who is hospitalized right now, but things are looking good for him to be able to return home soon. If anybody else has names they'd like to mention, please do that now.
Ray Wofford, Bruce Tyndall, Steve Winningham, Pete Bassell, and Mary Bassell.
Sid Rabin, Joey Rabin, Roz Cohn.
And I will mention Marilyn, who's with us now, but also Sarah Kramer, and Heather. I hope that things are coming together for you as well.
Thank you. I am feeling better. Thank you.
And Craig, you know that we're Misha Berach is for healing, and healing a broken heart is also important. So we would mention you as well, mourning the loss of your good friend.
Thanks.
And I think if anybody else has some names, if not, let me get the words up. And whoever would like to lead the singing, please. Don't all volunteer at once.
We should just all do it together.
Thank you. That sounds great.
Okay. I don't have pitch. Someone start.
Go 1, 2, 3.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekar HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And when I was in radio and every so often tried to sing along, I would explain that's why they pay me to talk. So, but
we did it. God heard it.
It looks like I'm getting some canine support in the background there too. Good. So, let's see. Let's go from that to our bracha for reading Torah. All together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asot b'divrei Torah. Amen. Okay. Well, what I'd like to do is start out with the first 20 lines, I think. And you'll see some of the repetition that'll be coming up, but the introduction tells us what's going on. So who would like to volunteer as the first?
I can. This is Heather.
Okay.
And the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting on the first and second month in the second year of their going out from Egypt, saying, count the heads of all the community of the Israelites by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, every male by their heads. From 20 years and old and up, everyone who goes into the army in Israel, you shall reckon them by their battalions, you and Aaron. And with you let there be a man from each tribe, each man at the head of his father's house. And these are the names of the men who will stand with you. For Reuben, Elazar, son of Shedor. For Simeon, Shemuel, son of, oh my goodness, Zerushaddai. For Judah, Nahshon, son of Aminadab. For Issachar, Nathaniel, son of Zuar. For Zebulun, Eliab, son of Helon. For the sons of Joseph, for Ephraim, Elishama, son of Ammihud. For Manasseh, Gamaliel, son of Pedazur. For Benjamin, Abidan, son of Gideoni. For Dan, Ahizor, son of Ammishaddai. For Asher, Pagiel, son of Akron. For God, Eliseph, son of Duel. For Naphtali, Ahira, son of Anan. These are the ones called from the community, chieftains of their fathers' tribes. They are the heads of kin groups of Israel. And Moses and Aaron with them took these men who had been marked out by name, and all the community they assembled on the first of the second month, and they were affiliated by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names from 20 years old and up by their heads, and as the Lord had charged Moses, and he made a reckoning of them in the wilderness of Sinai. Why did I pick that one? It had such hard names.
Well, I think it's fascinating that I don't know that many of those names are mentioned anywhere else. It's like they got their placement, but everywhere else it's they don't go on. There are a few of them, and I know the one that came up was Nachson, and Yehuda. Of course, he's not with us so I'm not going to speak for him, but he's very fond of mentioning. There's a midrash that Nachson was the first to step through the divided waters to cross over when the waters were parted as the Egyptians were chasing the Israelites, and so
cool.
that's a name that comes up. But most of the other names, I don't know that this is their only mention. So it's interesting that they are specified in that way. And also, I found interesting that this is the time. This is 2 years now then since departing from Egypt, which means there are 38 more years to go.
Oh.
And if there was a military purpose for this, men from 20 to 60 is the range. 38 years from now, when they actually get into the crossing over into the land and have the battles that they're going to have, even the youngest of them is going to be in toward the end by 60. So another generation is going to have to step in. So I think it's interesting that this particular census happens at this time.
Mm-hmm.
But the question, and Aviva put this in her notes, is why another census?
Matan has his hand up. I see.
Please, Matan.
I've heard it said that I don't know what you call it, the genealogies are very, very important in the Middle East. And so people, and this is part of the origin of all the tribes. So I believe that has something to do with why it's so detailed, and it's son of and so forth, and traces it all back, because that was a priority to the peoples in the Middle East at the time.
And we do carry on that tradition when we have an aliyah at when we called up to read from the Torah. It's mentioning our parents, so the previous generations are included. So that's something I guess we've carried on from that. But we already had a couple of censuses, right? And there was a count before. Let's see, there was a census before they left or when they left Egypt. There was a count, and then there was a census when they got through the water, and now there's this one. And it just raises the question of why do we need to keep counting?
Well, I think this one had a specific purpose, which was to form an army. So they had to get, remember when you had to go to the draft board when you turned 18 and, it's the same concept, the same organization for the military purposes.
The selective service.
Yeah.
Yeah, when most of our brothers turned 18, it was, do we go to the draft board or do we go to Canada?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a note that this again is the notes that Aviva suggested looking at, and she said that the name of the book it's the name of this book, but it's also the name of this parsha, Bamidbar, in the wilderness, reflects a period of transition between servitude and life as a free people. The Israelites are in the process of wandering, literally and figuratively. They're on their way to the land that they've been promised and learning how to live according to God's expectations, while at the same time taking stock of themselves in the wilderness, a place without an existing structure. So to ensure space for encounters with the divine during their journey, the people must organize the community in a way that protects the central theme of the what's in the Mishkan, in the tabernacle, the covenant. And it says that God commands that the men of the tribe of Levi encircle the tabernacle. We'll get to that in a moment, and attend the high priestly family, expanding the circle of those who conduct rituals that ensure the community's access to the divine. So I think that this is what the count is also, I think, giving some connection to what people's roles are going to be in these next 38 years. That was by from Rabbi Stephanie Bernstein, and then she also had a Rashi quote that from the first about these first lines that Heather just read. Because the children of Israel are dear to him, God counts them often. He counted them when they were about to leave Egypt. He counted them after the golden calf to establish how many were left. And now he's about to cause his presence to rest on them with the inauguration of the sanctuary, so he counted them again. But I think it is interesting that the counting is left to the people. It's not something that is done from outside by God or an angel or something like that. The people are left to do that.
I think it's interesting that it also notes eligible military age. You're a man when you're 13, but you don't go in the army till you're 20.
And there's the omission of women, which is...
I am, Alan, it's Sarah.
Yes.
I think the first time they were counted when they left Egypt, that they weren't in a very high spiritual state when they left Egypt. They still had that Egyptian culture. So that was all Hashem counting them coming out of Egypt, is my understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second counting, that was Moshe counting. So that sort of represents their change for the better. They weren't perfect. They had the golden calf. It's sort of before the tabernacle, but between the golden calf and the tabernacle, Hashem isn't really present with them like he was when he took them out of Egypt with all the miracles and all of that. So that was Moshe. And then then the third time, it's actually the fourth time. I think there were 4 countings, but we only count 3 for some reason. I can't remember exactly why. When the
Oh,
Mishkan is built, it's Moshe and Aaron, right? That do the counting.
well, the
I
word
mean, I
that they
think,
supervise it.
yeah,
Uh, so-
yeah. So, because that was by that time, it was sort of their job to do that work for Hashem. You know, but the first time, I believe it was all Hashem. And like you said, it was because I think you said Rashi, I think. Didn't you say
yes.
Rashi?
Right.
Because Hashem loved them so much, he completely took them out of Egypt and counted them. Anyway, I just thought I would throw that in there.
Sure.
Um,
No,
so they were at different spiritual levels, in other words. I can't remember. It's actually 4 countings, but I can't remember why we just talk about the
we may
3.
we may get another one yet. We may get another one yet.
Yeah,
Um,
but I think
Matan,
those 3 countings sort of show, like what Rashi's trying to say about Hashem loved the people, but they were at different spiritual levels. When they came out of Egypt, they were still very Egyptian, sort of in that culture. And then after the golden calf, but before the tabernacle, there was a change there, a transformation after they built the calf and had that falling. So,
and quite a few people were lost in that too.
Yeah.
and quite a
So
few people were lost in that. So, and then when the Mishkan is built, or the tabernacle is built, that's yet again another function. The soul of the people has another stage of development. But but Aaron, that was really Aaron's job to bring the people to Hashem. Uh, they all built the Mishkan, so it brought the people together to yet another soul level. All of the faculties, let's say, of the tribes were involved in that. So anyway, all these different levels, and then if you look at the other countings, they all sort of are bringing forth these different spiritual levels of the tribes at different points in time.
I kind
and
of agree with you, Sarah. And also, I thought that building of the Mishkan elevated everyone because of the amazing creativity and craftsmanship it took. I mean, just piddling around in a workshop is, for the Egyptians is one level, but building something like that with the craftsmanship it took puts you on a whole other plane.
Yeah,
And how
exactly.
they all had to volunteer, like they were all asked to bring what they had to contribute. So it like brought everybody in together
Yeah, good
as
point.
well. In fact,
and
they had to
and
be stopped because there was too much at some point. They didn't need any more. So, I think it made everybody feel like they were a part of something.
I think that what you just said, Marilyn, segues into something that Matan pointed out, and I maybe I'd like you to go into that a little more. Matan, he noted in the chat that there was another purpose for one of the earlier counts, and that was to raise money, to have donations, and part of it was the donations. The part of that was the donations for building the Mishkan, but also to keep the priesthood going, which I think raises the question. And again, I'm gonna channel Yehuda about this, about whether this
I
part
can
was
hear
written
him.
by the priests, whether this part was written by the priests to make sure that they're looked out for, or their needs are covered. Because we'll get to that in a couple of in a few more lines about the role of the priesthood and the Levites because they're not called on to do some of the things that the people in general are. They're not counted in this census that's going to involve the military. Vic joined us. That's great. Glad you were able to get online. I'm not sure who iPhone is.
I don't know who that is either.
Is it me?
No.
No. But welcome at any rate. Well, why don't we do a little more reading? And this is a point where I think once we get into this, now we're getting into the nuts and bolts, or the spreadsheet that they're doing for this census. So let's read a little bit of this and then jump ahead, I think. So who would like to read?
I'll read. Okay.
Okay.
And the sons of Reuben, Israel's firstborn, those born to them by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names by their head, every male from 20 years old and up, everyone who went out in the army, their reckoning for the tribe of Reuben, 46,500. The reckoning for the tribe of Reuben, 46,500. For the sons of Simeon, those born to them by their clans and their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, by their heads, by every male from 20 years old and up, and everyone who went out in the army. The reckoning for the tribe of Simeon, 59,300. For the sons of Gad, those born to them by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, from the 20 years old and up, and everyone who went out in the army. The reckoning for the tribe of Gad, 45,650. For the sons of Judah, those born to them by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, from 20 years old and up, everyone who went out in the army. Those reckoned for the tribe of Judah, 74,600. For the sons of Issachar, those born to them by their clans, by their fathers' houses, according to the number of names, from 20 years up, and everyone who went out in the army. The reckoning for the tribe of Issachar, 54,400.
At this point, thanks, Vic. At this point, it goes on through the rest of the tribes that we have. We get the numbers, and it's repeating, pretty much repeating the same words, except just different numbers. And then we get to what the toting up the census. So let me jump ahead to that and go for the next 10 lines or so. So Vic, I don't know if do you want to continue reading?
Sure, if you want me to, I'll do.
Please, yeah.
These are the reckonings that Moses and Aaron and the chieftains of Israel's made. 12 men, one man for each father's house they were. And all the Israelites who were reckoned by their fathers' houses from 20 years old and up, everyone who went out in the army in Israel. All the reckonings came to 603,550. And the Levites by the tribe of their fathers were not recognized in their midst. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, but the tribe of Levi you shall not reckon, and their heads you shall not count in the midst of the Israelites. And you make the Levites reckon them with the tabernacle of the covenant, and with all its furnishings, and with all that belongs to it. And it is who shall bear the tabernacle and all its furnishings, and they shall serve it. And around the tabernacle they shall camp. And when the tabernacle journeys onward, the Levites shall take it down. And when the tabernacle camps, the Levites shall set it up. And the stranger who draws near shall be put to death. And the Israelites shall camp each man with his camp, and each man with his banner by their battalions. The Levites shall camp around the tabernacle of the covenant. There shall be no fury against the community of Israelites. And the Israelites shall keep watch over the tabernacle of the covenant. And the Israelites did all that the Lord had charged Moses, and thus they do.
So they got that definite exalted position or important position for the Levites, and in sort of the same way that we do when we are gathered around the Torah is they circle around it in order to protect it, and that's their role. But also, I think it's interesting that their role is putting it together, building it again. We had all of those chapters about the details, the number of gold, silver rings, and the acacia poles, and all of that had to be taken down and stored in a way that they could be taken out again and put together every time they broke camp and moved to a new location. So that was all the Levites' responsibility. Something that we'll get coming up a little bit more of.
You know, we have this whole genealogy that she's read all the, Heather was reading all these people's names. We don't really hear anything about Moses' family, Moshe's family, which I think is like he had kids too. Yet there's no mention of his family. Like they don't seem to have any leadership roles.
He's Moses' family is Levites. Moses is comes from the Levites.
But his sons are not mentioned as Levites. I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, they might be Levites, but I don't know if they are because his wife was a Moabite, although this is before the Torah, so she probably converted automatically. But I don't know if that makes her kids Levites.
Well, you take your father's name.
Well, I don't know, maybe. I'm just saying it seems really, it doesn't say anything about his kids taking any, like they sort of left, didn't they? Am I mistaken? Didn't they go off somewhere or something? I don't know. Anyway, just
Levites. So and the Levites took care of the tabernacle. So they took care of the tabernacle.
But they're not mentioned doing that.
So maybe this is intentional that because there's no great monument or grave place for Moses, you can't go visit Moses's grave anywhere, right? And maybe, the whole intention is not to raise up that family any higher or have people worship Moses and his family. So they, on purpose created it this way.
I don't know. I'd have to ask a rabbi or something about that because I'm not sure that maybe they were Levites, but they certainly aren't mentioned anywhere. Like his family or his kids, their names, they're not mentioned anywhere.
Well, no, I think we'll get to that a little later. There is they do have a role, particularly because Moses and Aaron are the conduit. They go into the Holy of Holies. So they have a very significant role.
Aaron, and then we see what happens to Aaron's kids, but Moshe's kids are not mentioned at all.
That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Having any kind of role anywhere in this. Which is interesting that they're not mentioned. I mean, Moshe being the greatest leader of all time, Aaron's, we see what happens to his sons. But I mean, they're just not mentioned anywhere. I just think kind of interesting.
And Aaron is a Kohen and his sons are Kohanim, but Moses' sons remain Levites.
I'd have to ask a rabbi about the opinion on that.
Yeah, that's it.
Levites. The Kohen, when you look for a Kohen, you look for Levites.
I realize that.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that it's strange that they're not mentioned anywhere. Everything is real specific in the Torah, right? So that's all I'm saying is I think it's interesting that you don't hear them playing a role. I mean,
not a family role. Aaron and his sons are mentioned because you mentioned the two that were killed because of the strange fire, but he also had other sons who were the priest who led the Kohanim after the death of Aaron. They were still his sons were still in that position.
Right. And Miriam and Zipporah are mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And
Matan? Yes.
Aaron is
According to Friedman, there are two basic essential narratives. There's the J narrative and the E narrative in the Torah. And I believe the J narrative sought to minimize the influence of Moses. So this could be political to keep the Levites down.
Because
That
their
Gershom and
name,
Eliezer's descendants are not mentioned.
yeah, there's something going on there because they're not even in the genealogy here that we
they don't
talk
even
about,
mention Gershom.
Elishama, son of Ammihud, and Gamaliel, son of, and on and on. But his sons are not even mentioned, which I think is really strange.
They're not
But
counted either.
but
I'm
those
sorry,
They're not counted either.
they're not
yeah,
counted
not
either.
counted either. But it is clear that the count was the tribes of the 12 tribes, the children of Jacob, the children of Israel.
Yeah,
And Moses is in a family that comes from that, but not he's not elevated to being the head of a particular tribe. He's the head of the whole community
that's
at this
true.
point.
That's true.
But he doesn't have. There's no banner for his family because
Right.
they're under the banner of the Levites, I guess. But that's a good question about why his family doesn't get honored in the same way, or at least memorialized in the same way in the Torah. And again, as I said earlier at the beginning, these are names that we'll see once and they don't come back again in many cases. We don't know what was the importance of knowing that particular name, other than as Matan was mentioning the genealogy, the importance of genealogy in the time and place that this occurred. And I guess there weren't birth certificates or things like that, records for people
No.
to refer to. So repeating the names, the genealogy was important to ensuring the family line is continued, which I guess later on leads to property issues where the inheritance of the property becomes important.
And let's look at the leadership issues. It went to Joshua, not to Moses's family or Aaron's
Right.
family.
Right. Right. So the second census was taken to see how many were left after the golden calf.
After the golden calf, according to this Rashi commentary.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That would be collecting in names, all
Yeah.
the people that worshipped the golden calf were gone, and all that was left was Jews.
Yeah, because they would have gone right into Israel, right? I mean, they weren't expecting to spend 40 years in the desert at that point. That came after the spies came back with a bad report.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, they were going to go. Go ahead. Go ahead, Vic.
Oh, they were still in the desert.
Yeah, but they
They
weren't.
had another big encampment like they had before, and they set up all their stuff, the tabernacle and everything, and they were just sitting around.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking they're going to go right to the Holy Land.
Yeah, and Moses has some things that he liked to do before they go, I think, and one of them is the census. And
Well, let's do some more reading, because this, I think, what Arnie was mentioning before, and I know Vic often points this out too, that there's a very clear military image that comes up with the way they are organized like troops. Like you can imagine this like
Yeah.
a big military command where everybody comes out after the bugle call and they're in their section under their banner, and
Under
that's
their
what we get
flag, yeah.
here. So who would like to read next?
I could do it.
Okay, would you read? What I'd like to do is go to did I say not 34? I'll figure out a place to stop. Why don't we start from here?
And the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, every man by his banner with standards for his father's house shall the Israelites camp opposite. Round the tent of meeting shall they camp. And those that camp to the very east, the banner of the camp of Judah by its divisions, the chieftain of the Judites, Nahshon, son of Amminadab, and his division, and those reckoned with them, 74,600. And those camped by him, the tribe of Issachar, and the chieftain of the Issacharites, Nathaniel, son of Zuar, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 54,400. The tribe of Zebulun, the chieftain of the Zebulunites, Eliab, son of Helon, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 75,400. All the reckoning for the camp of Judah, 186,400 by their divisions. It's a lot of people. They shall journey first, the banner of the camp of Reuben, to the south of their divisions, and the chieftain of the Reubenites, Elizur, son of Shedeur, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 46,500. And those who camped by him, the tribe of Simeon, and the chieftain of the Simeonites, Shalumiel, son of Zurishaddai, and his division, and their reckoning, 59,300. And the tribe of Gad, and the chieftains of the Gadites, Eliasaph, son of Reuel, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 46,500. All the reckoning for the camp of Reuben, 150,450 by their divisions, and they shall journey second. And the tent of meeting, the camp of the Levites, shall journey in the midst of the camps. As they camp, so shall they journey, each in his own place by their banners. The banner of the camp of Ephraim by their divisions to the west, and the chieftain of the Ephraimites, Elishama, son of Amihud, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 46,500. And by him the camp of Manasseh, and the chieftain of the Manassites, Gamaliel, son of Pedazur, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 32,200. And the tribe of Benjamin, and the chieftain of the Benjamites, and Abidan, son of Gideoni, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 35,400. And the reckoning for the camp of Ephraim, 186,100 by their divisions, and they shall journey third. The banner of the camp of Dan to the north of their divisions, and the chieftain of the Danites, Ahiezer, son of Ammishaddai, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 62,700. And those who camped by him, the tribe of Asher, and the chieftain of the Asherites, Pagiel of Ochran, and his division, and their reckoning, 41,500. A banner of the camp of Dan to the north by their division, and the chieftain of the Danites, Ahiezer, son of Ammishaddai, and his division, and those reckoned with it, 53,400. All the reckoning for the camp of Dan, 157,600. They shall journey last by their banners.
Thank you, Sarah. That's a lot of tongue twisters there. But again,
Yeah.
these are names that this is their sole mention, and so it's significant in that
And-
regard. But it also is kind of a head scratcher.
But if I remember correctly now, they had the tabernacle in the middle, and then the Levites were around it,
The Levites were around it, and
and then
then
on all east, north,
Yeah,
south, east,
yeah,
and west,
Reuben and Judah, yeah.
there were like three rows of. So there were 12 tribes. So there would be three with four. There would be four sides with 3 rows of each tribe on the east side, and 3 rows. How did that go now? Were there 3 rows of the tents with the tribes on each side? So 3 times
The
4
four
would
sides,
be
yeah.
12.
So
Yeah.
well, but except we have the Levites in the middle, so
The Levites,
actually 11.
and I think I remember this pretty well from, I don't know if he did it last year or if I did it in another class or what, but that the Levites were that was also to protect the people from going into the tabernacle by mistake, because if you went in there, you would die.
But I also think that it's very clear from what you read that this is a military formation.
It is, yeah.
That you march in this area, you march in this area. There was no mingling when they were on the move.
Yeah, yeah.
I suppose it doesn't mean they couldn't visit from camp to camp, but they were each given their place, and under the banner, and with the following the lead of whoever it was who was put in charge. You were talking about the different family members and how that Moshe's family is not there, but Ephraim jumps out. And Ephraim is not one of the sons of Jacob. Ephraim was one of the sons of Joseph.
Yeah, that's right.
And so they're
Is it the
elevated.
same one?
Yes,
I
that's
guess the same one, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And these are people who are long gone. If it was 400 years from the time that Jacob and the sons
But now
came
wait
to
a
Egypt.
minute, Alan. Didn't they only count the ones that were of military age?
But no, they're the ones.
Didn't we study that? They were had to be 18 or 20 or
Well,
something
20.
like that.
That was at the beginning of this. Yes.
Oh, it was 20 to
Yeah.
what, 60
20
or
to
something?
60, I think, is
60.
the
Okay,
range.
okay. I wasn't there for the beginning. I'm sorry.
But it's still it raises an interesting point, because they're the names that we're mentioning, the names of the people who are the heads of those tribes, are the great grandchildren of the namesakes of their tribes. Reuben's not around anymore. Ephraim's not around anymore.
No.
They're long gone.
And the Levites are counted differently. They're not
Yeah.
counted.
Yeah.
Because they're guarding the tabernacle is basically what they're doing.
And yeah,
Right, with all
those
the-
guys are gone too. In the tabernacle but they're there. Aaron is gone, all his sons.
Yeah. Huh. Very interesting.
Yeah.
But
But-
Moses
and-
was a military man.
Yeah. Well,
I
look
think-
at Joshua when he went into the new land. That's all they did was fight all the different kingdoms, those little kingdoms on all the different tells when they crossed the Jordan into the land. That they were totally military by then.
I thought it was interesting that they rounded everything off by tens. And, there
Yeah.
wasn't any spare change, like there was, 56 or anything, it was
Right.
50. And,
That's interesting too. Yeah.
yeah, I don't know why they would do that. What's the chances that everything would come out even with 10,
Now you're getting into your gematria.
Yeah.
Right. I actually was sitting there trying to add up everything to see if something came out, but nothing did.
Differently.
Too complicated.
Well, that's the detail is that detail is I think a fascinating one that we get these numbers, and yet it's not clear why they're important. Why is it important that one of the tribes has got 75,000 and another one's got 64,000? It's we think of it as the entire group of the Israelite
Oh.
community.
And each banner, each tribe had their own color, which
Yeah.
was the color of the stones in the breastplate.
Right in the yeah, exactly, in the high priest's breastplate and
Very
our own.
organized.
Again, very military, very like it's preparation for military training.
You know, and when I went to Camp Sidney Cone in summer when I was a kid, we had colors too for all our different things. We had banners and colors. That's interesting too.
The banner
So we're
and-
getting Go ahead.
Like you said, military is what's important, and that rounds off in zeros, probably even today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now we're going to get to some more genealogy, but this may answer some of the questions that came up. Matan has something here. Map of the camp of the children. Ignore. Okay, let's see if we can see if I can bring that up for everybody to see. Okay, first I have to. Let's see. Where's the map?
Just a little non-military aside. The guy, I mean, when they first were collecting the stuff to design or to put together the tabernacle, the guy's name was Bezalel, and that is also the name of the art school that stands
Yeah.
to this day in Jerusalem.
Sure, it's named for Bezalel, exactly.
Yeah.
So this is what Matan just gave us a connection to. So here's the layout of the camp, and when you look at those numbers, I mean the
there
squares
you have
look.
it.
Yeah, when you look at those numbers, the squares look awfully small, and yet there's got to be room.
Yeah.
Say 74,600 in Judah,
Right.
and so that's really a large area that the encampment takes. And then we already had the measurements of what the Mishkan is. The red square there, or the red rectangle rather, was the we had the measurements of that, but we have around them we have the encampment for the Levites and Moses and the priests. So
When
it's
you
very
look at the
regimented.
organization of the thing, though, you would think you would want equal numbers on all four sides, for equal protection. But there's a disparity there. There's not the right
Yeah.
amount, right?
Yeah. They probably couldn't get it to that close down, Arnie, for there were however many there were, right?
Yeah.
And then brings back memories from both summer camp and then when I was in the Army about counting off. And if you have to count up to 74,600, you're going to be there for a while.
Yeah. That's funny.
So, well, we got some more genealogy, but answering perhaps some of the questions that that came up earlier about Moses and Aaron and their family. So, who would like to take over some reading for a bit?
I can.
I'll read.
Oh, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Okay.
But Matan, what?
And where do you want me to start?
3, where I've got it up on the screen, 3:1.
Start at the top. Okay.
Yeah.
And these are the generations of Aaron and Moses on the day of the Lord, on the day the Lord spoke with Moses on Mount Sinai. And these are the names of the sons of Aaron: the firstborn Nadab and Abihu, Eleazar and Ithamar. These are the names of the sons of Aaron, the anointed priests whom he installed to serve as priests. And Nadab and Abihu died before the Lord when they brought forward unfit fire for the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai. and sons they did not have. And Eleazar and Ithamar served as priests in the lifetime of Aaron their father. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Bring forward the tribe of Levi, and set them before Aaron the priest, that they may serve him. And they shall keep his watch and the watch of all the community before the tent of meeting to do the work of the tabernacle. And they shall keep watch over all the furnishings of the tent of meeting and the watch of the Israelites to do the work of the tabernacle. And you shall give the Levites to Aaron and to his sons, holy given shall they be from the Israelites. And Aaron and his sons you shall single out, that they keep their priesthood, and the stranger who draws near shall be put to death. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, And as for me, look, I have taken the Levites from the midst of the Israelites in place of every firstborn womb breach of the Israelites, that the Levites be mine. For mine is every firstborn. On the day I struck down every firstborn in the land of Egypt, I consecrated to me every firstborn in Israel, from man to beast. Mine they shall be. I am the Lord. And the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, saying, Reckon the Levites by their fathers' houses, by their clans. Every male from a month old and up you shall reckon them. And Moses reckoned them according to the word of the Lord, as he had been charged.
So we've got something there about the role of Moses, Aaron, and their family, in particular Aaron's family. But as
So
Sarah
isn't
pointed
there-
out,
Go ahead.
no, I say, as you pointed out, there's no role for, at least no role listed for Moses' family. In fact, they seem to have disappeared from the story at this
Yeah.
point. But you were starting to say?
Isn't there a ritual for the firstborn? I don't remember what it's called, but
A pinya, a ben, or something like that.
yeah.
Ben.
What is it?
Pinya Ben, I think it's something like that.
Pinya, a
Something
ben.
like that, right?
Yeah.
It has to be the firstborn, and it has to be a natural birth.
I think it's
Well,
interesting they wait 30 days, make sure the
Yeah.
kid survives.
Uh-huh.
There must have been a lot of, early
Ye-
child mortality rates back then.
No
And
doubt.
there's a lot of cultures in the world that do that.
That's just the tribe of Levi though. And
Mhm.
Oh,
that's
I-
only the tribe of Levi. Or Or-
No, I think that's right. I think it is only the Levites.
That was, yeah, just listed just now, because they were talking about Aaron and his family, and they are Levites.
Mhm.
So
how do you say that, Arnie? Idyan Haben?
Pinya, a ben, or something to that
Idyan
effect.
Haben.
Haben, yeah. Yeah, I don't know where I got that. I haven't thought of that word in 50 years at
Well,
least.
it's in there. It's in
Yeah,
your
I
cup.
remember my mother saying, we had to go to one.
I know I'm a firstborn, and for some reason, I got some status from that. I have no reason to know why.
Well, the firstborn is always dedicated to God, but if you're a Levite, then I think you do that ritual or something. You wait the 30 days. It has to be a natural birth. It can't be like a C-section or something like that.
Well, I don't think there was such a thing
See,
when this
yeah.
was written.
yeah,
Well, I'm just saying, I don't know about, yeah. I mean, I think nowadays, it has to be, well, of course, back then it would have been a natural birth if it was a successful birth, right? There was nothing
Right.
else. But today, in today's world, I think it has to be a natural birth. I think though, can't you buy out of that? Like,
well, I think I'm just looking it up right now, and Pidyon Haben, the redemption of the firstborn son.
Okay, there you go.
Is a mitzvah in Judaism where the firstborn son is redeemed with money. Redemption is achieved by paying 5 silver coins to a Kohen on behalf of the firstborn son. Alternatively, an object of equal value can be used. Relatively uncommon ceremony. Families do not perform it if the firstborn is a girl or born by a cesarean section.
Okay, yeah, there you go. I
And-
know that. I
or if
remember
either grandfather is a Kohen or a Levite. It's all
there's a whole thing, but I remember my Rebbitzin from Chabad in Mesa, her grandson was given one of these. They had to wait 30 days, and it was like, I just remember her talking about it.
But I don't think this makes clear. I mean, there's a ritual involved and steps that the family is supposed to take. But what does that mean if they have been redeemed for service to God? Is that the idea that they have at that point? That's their future.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what that entails.
It means
I
the
like-
Kohanim
that's
made
what-
5 silver coins on the deal.
I think it was like, I don't know how many shekels that is.
Yeah, I mean, let's multiply it by some of those numbers we had before.
Yeah.
I think that's how you become a Kohen.
Is it?
Only
Well,
the
it doesn't-
firstborn, though, right? The firstborn
Firstborn
boy.
can become a Kohen.
Uh-huh.
Well, they could be silver dollars or dimes. They're both silver, right? At one time, at least they were. But
Right. Yeah, exactly.
No more pennies.
No more pennies, right? Right. But I think that the significant, maybe because we don't have the priestly order and we don't have what's all being described in this, that the tradition is carried on, but the role of the firstborn is not the same as I think is laid out here in the Torah. That there is a commission or being committed to service of the community.
Right. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
You're probably right. They have to protect the sanctuary.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you
Okay.
know, that's interesting. They may be the ones who have to, or, you know, they're assigned, that position is assigned to make sure that the oil is in the lamps and that, you know, that all the things that need to be done for it. I say mundane, but I don't mean necessarily mundane, but just the everyday things that must be done are done by
wouldn't-
somebody. And
But
that
wouldn't
could
the
be-
shaman do that? What do you call it? Not the
Shamash.
shaman.
The
shamash,
The shamus. The
The
shamus.
shamus. Yeah, the shamus.
Yeah,
But-
but we haven't read any. I mean, maybe that was that position. We haven't read anything about it.
Maybe.
No, but what we just had in the reading that Sarah did was that they shall keep watch. Where is it? Line.
Yeah.
Here we go. Line 8. Let me bring that up. Hang on a sec.
Yeah, I know.
Where they shall keep watch over all the furnishings of the tent of meeting and watch of the Israelites to do the work of the tabernacle. So
And also,
Yeah.
they have to watch that nobody goes in there, because if you go in there, even if you're from another tribe,
You could defile
right,
it.
right.
you would die. It was like a death.
Well, it says
penalty.
it says anybody who's not part of this club is doomed to die. That's so. It's a position that's being protected.
Mhm.
Well,
But I think you can, at birth, you can buy the firstborn back.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You could give shekels instead of doing that service, I think, but I don't remember how many shekels, but you could buy your way out. Why would you do that? That would be really embarrassing. That would be like saying, "Oh, I don't want to serve Hashem in
Or-
the." What? I mean, that's kind of interesting that they would even have a buyout, an option to buy out.
Maybe it's a point of pride saying, "Look, I can afford this, and I'm going to do this
Oh.
for the community."
Yeah, or
And
maybe there's something we're missing. We don't understand it.
Definitely.
I,
Yeah.
this,
Uh,
I
I'm
will
sure
plead. I
there's,
will plead that for a lot of this. So,
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
well, let's go. We have some more names,
Yeah,
but I think
Aviva left notes for us, but maybe we better start making some notes for her.
yeah. Well,
Here it
Marilyn, would you
says
like to
in
do?
my Chumash that the level of holiness of the firstborn is higher because this is interesting too, because they were the ones that were uh they were the ones that were the plague of the Egyptians were the firstborn.
Yeah, we were
Mhm.
spared.
Yeah. So that puts them at a higher level of holiness.
Hmm.
But if you remember Aviva's drash from the last service about how do you define holiness? What is being holy? And can somebody be more holy than another person? And you do acts that are holy, but can a person have that put on them as a mantle just because by birth?
I think probably just in that way, and everybody is probably holy in some way. Like, some people give more charity, some people, pray more, some people do more mitzvahs. These guys
Mhm.
survived the plague, so they got a little bump up from that.
I guess. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so but I think everybody can, the thing of it is why would Hashem even count if if it wasn't, you don't count stuff unless it's precious, right? You don't count how
Hmm.
many diamonds you have. I mean, you count how many diamonds you have. You don't count necessarily your junk jewelry. So,
So I think it's
Well,
more of an obligation,
yeah,
you know, as a firstborn, you're obligated to this status because God spared us as firstborn.
yeah.
mhm.
Well, because they
Matan,
were targeted, yeah, exactly, right. You're right.
Matan, you have your hands up. Your hand up.
Yeah. Also, there's the question of primogeniture. Like in the British royal family, the firstborn son is always the first to become king, if there is one.
Yeah, right.
Hmm. And it's important to establish that order of succession to keep things going. So that's an
And
important role.
yet, and yet, the oldest doesn't always end up being the one that gets the
Hmm.
inheritance,
Hmm.
Yeah.
which is also interesting.
Well,
Who
let's
knows?
let's go on with some more names, which I think are kind of interesting because some of them might be more recognizable now, or at least names that have come up in other places, and others this is their sole mention.
Can you believe
So,
that Bamidbar was my bat mitzvah parsha
oh
with all
really?
these
Oh,
crazy names? I
well then,
almost
by all
can't.
means, you should read this next portion then.
Okay, I'll try.
Okay.
I think I have to move because the reception where I am is not always great. Hang on a sec. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I don't know where Marilyn is moving to.
Hang on.
Are you there? Okay.
I don't I don't know what happened to the sound.
Your
I
You
don't
can't
know
sound,
what
hear?
I don't know what happened to the sound.
We're here. We are
Can you hear
hearing
me?
you, but you're not hearing us.
Okay. Okay.
Oh,
I'll try. I'm
We are hearing you, but you're not hearing us.
Okay.
I think there's
And
something
these
else
were the-
on. There's another speaker or a phone or something like that that's on, that's
On
connected. No?
Facebook.
Okay.
I think there's something else on.
Okay, but I don't know what.
Phone or something like that that's on. Or yeah, it could be something like Facebook because there is a delay. There's a significant delay.
Okay, but I don't know what. Okay, I don't know what to do about it.
Okay. Something like Facebook because there is a delay. There's a significant delay.
Okay. And these were the Levites by their names: Gershon and Kohath and Merari. Could you hear that?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And these were the Levites by their names: Gershon and Merari. Did you hear that?
We're getting, yeah, we heard it. Yes, we heard it twice now because we got. I think whatever
Okay,
you
well,
did,
then
Marilyn,
somebody else
changed.
better do this, 'cause
Yeah,
I don't
whatever
know.
you did is changed. Why don't you mute? I'm going to mute you while you figure it out, so
Okay.
that we don't get the echo back. Okay. There. Let's see. Okay. All right. Craig, can I
Yes,
volunteer you to do some reading?
absolutely. And these were the Levites by their names: Gershon and Kohath and Merari. And these are the names of the sons of Gershon by their clans: Libni and Shammai. And the sons of Kohath by their clans: Amram and Izhar, Hebron and Uziel. And the sons of Merari by their clans: Mali and Mushi. These are the clans of Levi by their fathers' houses. To Gershon, the Libnite clan, and the Shimeite clan. These are the Gershonite clans. Their reckoning in the number of every male from a month old and up, their reckoning is 7,500. The Gershonite clan shall camp behind the tabernacle to the west, and the chieftain of the father's house for the Gershonite, Eliasaph, the son of Lael. And the watch of the Gershonites in the tent of meeting, the tabernacle and the tent, its cover and the screen of the entrance to the tent of meeting, and the hangings of the court and the screen of the entrance to the court, which is around the tabernacle and the altar, and its cords for all its service. And to Kohath, the Amramite clan, and the Izharite clan, and the Hebronite clan, and the Uzzielite clan. These are the Kohathite clans. In the numbers of every male from 1 month old and up, 8,600, keepers of the watch of the sanctuary. The clans of the Kohathites shall camp on the side of the tabernacle to the south, and the chieftain of the father's house for the clans of the Kohathite, Elizaphan, son of Uziel. And their watch is the ark and the table and the lampstand and the altars and the sacred vessels with which they shall serve, and the screen and all its work. And the chieftain of the chieftains of the Levites is Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, in charge of those who keep the watch of the sanctuary. To the Merarite, the Malite clan, and the Mushite clan. These are the Merarite clans, and the reckoning and the number of every male from 1 month old and up, 6,200. And the chieftain of the father's house for the clans of the Merarite, Zuriel, son of Abihail. On the side of the tabernacle they shall camp to the north. And the charge of the Merarites, the boards of the tabernacle and its bars and its posts and its sockets and all its furnishings and all its work, and the posts of the court all around and their sockets and their pegs and their cords. And those who camp before the tabernacle to the east, before the tent of meeting to the east, Moses and Aaron and his sons, keeping the watch of the tabernacle for the watch of the Israelites, and the stranger who draws near shall be put to death. And the reckonings of the Levites, the Moses and Aaron reckoned according to the word of the Lord by their clans, every male from a month old and up, 22,000.
How interesting that we're counting now from a month old, and they're not going to do any of these things. they're basically going to cry and get their diaper changed for a few years.
Yeah, and how did they count them? I
but they-
mean,
But they're
it wouldn't
counted,
have-
yeah.
it wouldn't have been appropriate to go into their tent
But
to count
it
them.
seems as though this is their future that's being described. This is going to be their responsibility. So from childhood, they're going to be trained for this.
A hereditary position. Fathers, you take your father's position.
Go into the old man's business. Yeah.
Yeah. My phone is also doing the same thing.
Oh,
by the way.
want to hear what Rashi has to say about it?
Please.
Yeah.
It would have been improper for Moses to enter the Levite tents to count the suckling infants. So he waited outside, therefore, while the divine presence preceded him, and a heavenly voice proclaimed how many babies were in the tent. Now that's a little mind-blowing. Anyway, that's Rashi.
All right.
How does he know?
I don't know. I have no clue. None.
They tell stories generation to generation, and they can get
Yeah.
mixed up, or they can.
He waited till the baby cried, and how many babies cried, I don't know.
But it says this is again from the notes that Aviva left. This is from Rabbi Sachs' discussion on the parsha, and he says the duties of the family of Kehat, which also included Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, who had other roles, were also spelled out. It was their task to carry the most sacred objects: the ark, the table, the menorah, altars, curtains, and holy vessels used in the sacrificial service when the Israelites journeyed. This demanded special care. And did somebody point it out? Was it Matan? Did you point out that Gershon was one of Moses' sons? Because I thought I saw his father mentioned. Amram isn't Amram Moses' father? Amram and Yocheved?
I think Gershon is stranger in a strange land.
Yeah, and I thought that was one of his sons.
Yeah, it is.
One of
He's
his
the
sons.
one that was circumcised at the last minute, right? In the tent.
In the tent when Moses didn't want to go,
Yeah,
and Gershon was there, and his wife brought him in, and a lot of blood ensued. Or
yeah.
circumcision.
A lot of the names seem to be duplicated, like Eleazar. There's Eleazar, the son of Moses, and this Eleazar, it's mentioned here, is the son of Aaron. It's a different
Aaron.
Eleazar.
Right, who was the priest? He became the priest after the death of Aaron.
So it looks like it's kind of hard to say, just looking at the name, what the lineage is.
I don't see any other mushies.
I don't know if anybody remembers the old TV show Wagon Train, where the cook was named Mush. The cook was named Mushy, and there was an episode where oh great, I forgot his name. A Jewish comedian. No, it wasn't. But at any rate, he wound up going along with the wagon train, and he said, "Mushy, is that Moshe? Is that your name, Moshe?"
Frisco Kid, maybe.
Yeah, right. But these are names again. I'm fascinated by that they're important enough to be mentioned, and yet never again. Unless there's a midrash that fills in the gap of why these names are important to know.
So if they were counting everybody from the age of 20 to 60, why were the 1 month, why were the babies
because
the
they weren't
Levites.
because they weren't counted in that. No, the
They
Levites
were.
were not counted. No, the Levites weren't counted in that census of 20 to 60. It was everybody but the Levites. They were not counted.
But why were the babies counted?
I
Okay,
guess I guess because they needed to know that they were going to be able to go into the business as they got older.
oh,
So that, but from 1 month old, and so
I see.
it's preordained what they
So
what
if
they're going
they're
to.
so they're sort of counted as if they were serving from birth or from 1 month old. Okay.
But I keep coming back to the time that we got at the very beginning of the Parsha, that it was 2 years after leaving Egypt at this point. So that means there's 38 more years to go. 38
Yeah.
more years of wandering in the desert, wandering in Bamidbar.
But did
And
they know that?
no,
They didn't know
probably
that.
no,
See,
they didn't know
that's
that. But
yeah.
that means that by the time of crossing over into the land, they're going to be a 1 month old is going to be 38 years old
Yeah.
at that point. So they're old enough at that point when a lot of these uh, laws and commandments during in that are part of the pact are to be carried out when you're in the land that's been promised.
Yeah.
Here we're still at Sinai, right?
Right. Exactly.
So he's got some turf to cover.
Yeah. And get rid of some of the older folk who are not going to be eligible to cross over.
Yeah.
So, well, here comes the redemption with the 5 pieces of silver. So, let's see. Arnie, would you like to read? Oh.
Yeah, I'll try. And the Lord said to Moses, saying, take the Levites instead of every firstborn among the Israelites, and the cattle of the Levites instead of their cattle, and the Levites shall be mine. I am the Lord. And for the redemption of the 273 of the firstborn of the Israelites who exceed the number of the Levites, you shall take 5 shekels for each head. By the sanctuary shekel, you shall take 20 gerahs to the shekel. And you shall give the silver to Aaron and his sons as redemption for those among them who exceed the number. And Moses took the redemption silver from those who exceeded the number of those redeemed by the Levites. From the firstborn of the Israelites, he took the silver, 1,365 shekels by the sanctuary shekel. And Moses gave the redemption silver to Aaron and to his sons according to the word of the Lord. And the Lord had charged Moses. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, saying, count the heads of the Kohenites from the midst of the Levites, by their clans, by their fathers' houses, from 30 years old till 50 years old, all who come to the army to do the task of the tent of
Oh,
meeting. Yeah, changed from 20 to 30 there. This is the work of the Kohenites in the tent of the meeting, the Holy of Holies. And Aaron shall come and his sons when the camp journeys onward, and take down the coverings of the screen and cover with it the Ark of the Covenant. And they shall place it over the cover of ochre-dyed skin and spread a garment of pure indigo above it and put it in its poles. And on the table of the presence they shall spread an indigo garment and place on it bowls and the ladles and the jars and the libation flasks, and the perpetual bread shall be upon it. And they shall spread over them a crimson garment, and cover it in a covering of ochre-dyed skin, and put it on its poles. And they shall take an indigo garment and cover the lampstand of the light and its lamps and its tongs and its fire pans and all of its oil vessels with which they serve. And they shall take all the vessels of service with which they serve in the sanctuary and place them in an indigo garment and cover them with a covering of ochre dyed skin and place on a beam. And over the golden altar they shall spread an indigo garment and cover it with a covering of ochre dyed skin and put it in its poles. They shall take the vessels of service with which they serve in the sanctuary and place them in an indigo garment and cover them with a covering of ochre dyed skin and place on a beam. And they shall clear the ashes from the altar and spread it over it a purple garment. And they shall place on all its vessels with which they serve upon it the fire pans and the flesh hooks and the scrapers and the basins, all the vessels of the altar. And they should spread it over it a covering of ochre dyed skin and put it in its poles. And Aaron and his sons shall finish covering the sanctuary and all the vessels of the sanctuary, the camp journeys onward, and afterwards the Kohanites shall come to carry so that they do not touch the holy and die. These make up the carriage of the Kohanites and the tent of meeting. And what is appointed for Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, the oil for the lamp and the aromatic incense and the perpetual grain of offering and the anointed oil, what is appointed for the tabernacle and all that it is in, and the sanctuary and its vessels. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, saying, do not let the tribe of the clans of the Kohanites get cut off from the midst of the Levites. And this shall you do for them, that they live and not die when they draw near the Holy of Holies. Aaron and his sons shall come and set every man of them at his work and at his carriage. They shall not come in to see the sanctuary for even a moment and die.
Oh, okay. So important work. But why important to us now? Because none of this ritual is what we now observe directly connected to this ritual. And is that why it's important for us to understand what was laid out in the beginning?
Are any of you amongst us in favor of bringing back the third temple and doing all this stuff? Speak now. I'd like to know who you are.
There is a group in Israel that is promoting that.
Yeah, definitely. There's a big group of Christians who are super into it.
I mean, Arnie, every day when I count the Omer, that's the first thing that the prayer says is speedily bring back the temple. And so, I mean, we're still praying for it. Even whether you think about, I was thinking about that the other day, like every day when I count the Omer, that's the first thing I say.
Yeah, it's, when you think about the reality of it, my whole vision of the temple changed after reading Torah again, because I hadn't read it since I was a kid until I started reading it again with this group. And, the image I had as a kid was this beautiful marble palace that was totally, sparkly and pristine. And what I'm getting now, it was more like the slaughterhouse on the south side of Chicago, where you couldn't even walk a mile close to it without, gagging, totally different vision of what its purpose was and what it was like.
But also in the Omer every day, it says that, all the nations will rise up to Israel, and it's a political thing as well, that Israel will be a leading nation among all the nations, and all the nations will rise up and recognize one true God. And they taught, that's 1,000 years of peace or whatever. I don't know how many years, but that's like peace on the earth. So it's a political thing. And I mean, I don't know, isn't that Zionism?
Yeah, but is it worth it? I mean,
I
would you
don't know.
want,
I don't know. I think because, well, I don't know if it's worth it. That's a political discussion,
yeah,
which I won't get into here. Because it also says that, Heather says it depends on which Omer counter you use. I don't know what she means by that. Different ones say different things. They shouldn't say different things. I don't know. I have to look in the chat and see
Yeah,
what she said.
they definitely use different ones. If you use a Chabad one, it has whole different languages versus two other ones I use that are just very progressive or more conservative. So I just pick and choose depending on my mood.
But
I
but
see.
it does raise an interesting question. But as Arnie said at the beginning, do we really, if the goal is to recreate the or rebuild the temple and carry out all of these traditions, is that really is that is that necessary for us? Do we have to return to doing these things, like having all of these utensils that are very specifically described in a certain way, having the a Kohen? How are we going to determine who is a Kohen? Who gets that responsibility? Just because we know that from what it says on our grandparents' tombstone that we are Kohen, so we would get that responsibility now and suddenly have to learn how to do sacrifices.
Well,
I
I
mean,
don't know. Where does it say that we'll be doing, even if they built a temple? I don't know that it says anywhere that we're going to build a temple and start doing animal sacrifices again.
well,
Does it?
I think
I mean, there's a
a
group that
faction.
says
There's
that.
a faction
There
that says
is,
that
but
we
that doesn't
that's the
necessarily.
reason we need the temple is to be able to perform the sacrifices
Yeah, I
again.
know, but I mean, that doesn't mean that they're right, does it?
No.
I hope not.
I mean, so politically, the temple just means this symbolic structure that everybody is united around. I don't know that it means we'll go back to doing all of those things again.
Well, there's a lot of people who are trying to get that going.
That there's a few people. I don't yeah, there I know. Well, first they have to destroy the mosque that's sitting there.
Yeah.
And that would cause a whole upheaval against Jews first. So that tells you like you'd have to go through fire and 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 hailstones before you get to the peaceful part.
No.
But
Then
I'm not sure that the rebuilding the temple, I don't know where it says that you would go back to animal sacrifices because a lot of these things are just symbolic, like I don't really think, I don't know. Like also they say that after the temple is built, like when Mashiach comes, that things won't really be that different the way we live day to day. It's just that people won't be killing each other and behaving like they are today. But it doesn't, it's not going to mean like people don't get up and go to work or don't, take a shower or, whatever. It doesn't mean that. So I don't think that we really know. I think that these things are hidden and I'll probably won't be on the face of the earth when all this stuff happens. But I mean, we only have glimpses into the future. We don't really know what it would be like. So,
but does this say that? Thank you. Does this say that the people or the people whose genealogy puts them in this position of being one of these, the Kohathites, and we never hear that term except when you're reading the Torah these days. But the people who are given that responsibility will have to return to that, will be expected to return to that, because there will need to be a Levite battalion or whatever we want to call them, who are going to be the protectors of all of this if the Mishkan or
Is
the
built.
temple is rebuilt.
Well, there is a genealogy, isn't there?
Yeah.
I mean, there are people that know that they're Levites, so I guess they would have that responsibility. But what that entails is, a totally different thing. You're not going to walk into any temple on the face of the earth that I know of that are doing animal sacrifices right now, even the most orthodox.
Right now,
So,
there's people who are trying to breed the pure red heifer. And
yeah, I know.
they're doing all kinds of cell manipulation and all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff, right? Because
yeah,
I mean, that's pretty serious. That costs money to do that kind of stuff,
yeah,
So
And and
there's
and to what purpose? To what purpose?
this whole
It just
thing. Well, the Christians do it because that means the coming of Christ, right?
yeah,
And there's Orthodox, super Orthodox Jews that do it as a fulfillment of the Torah,
yeah, yeah,
And so that's why there's an alliance going on politically in Israel. If it wasn't for the Christians, Israel would be Opsurus.
yeah, yeah.
but
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 that
there's
doesn't
an
mean that they're right. That doesn't mean that they know anything about how that's going to unfold, how the future is going to unfold. It's a locked up secret, and nobody knows it until you get there.
but that also leads to I don't hate to call it an ulterior motive because that sounds kind of evil, but the fundamentalist view, the fundamentalist Christian view that Israel needs to exist because we need to have Armageddon for the prophecies to be carried out.
Right.
And so that's their support of Israel is predicated on those prophecies, setting up what is needed for those prophecies to be carried out. And
Yeah,
part
but
of
the
it is
Christians are
existence
wrong
of Israel.
because if they read their own book, it's very clear in the last book. It talks that the things are sealed. In other words, you can't understand it. You don't really, I mean, you can say, oh, there's all, hellfire and brimstone, but you don't really know how things are going to unfold in the future.
Hmm.
And it's very clear in their own New Testament. Uh, I forget what the name of the book is that has all that stuff in it. So nobody knows.
Revelation is the
Yeah,
Revelations.
yeah,
Yeah.
Revelations. They don't know because it says it's sealed with seven seals and and all these things. And nobody can even understand it.
Yeah. But that's, I think we're kind of in the same predicament with some of these, the roles and the importance of the different genealogies that are talked about in this part of the Torah. I think this becomes a real challenge to
Yeah.
make it relevant to our lives today.
Yes, it does.
Other
But
other than I keep falling back on the idea that what's happening is a community is being created. And a set of rules, a community needs a set of rules to live by. People need laws, people need guidelines of what is proper behavior and what is expected of them. And this is all setting that out so that when they eventually have the land, because right now, all of these things that talk about, you're going to leave your field. What fields? They're wandering in the desert. There are no fields yet. So it's all looking ahead, as Aviva likes to say,
yeah,
Laman, in order that you may
right.
have this in the land that you've been promised. And so the important thing that's going on here, I think, is not necessarily, in my view at least, is not necessarily the specifics of what's being done as important as the actual structure that's being created, so that we have a community that knows what's expected. People know what's expected of them, where the guidelines are, where stepping out of the line will get you in trouble, and if you do get in trouble, what you need to do to resolve that. all of this is being created at this point because we just had a group of people who, for 400 years had been living in Egypt and didn't have any community of their own.
Yeah, but the scary thing today is that all these people that believe in all these things, the question is, are they creating it?
Mm-hmm. And
I
do
don't
we
think
need
the question is, do we need it? The question is, are they creating it to
creating it?
fulfill their own prophecies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in our case, do we need to do any of these things? I mean, there are accommodations that we've made so that we have a mezuzah on the doorpost, and that fulfills the responsibility that's in the reading that we have every time we have the Torah reading at a service, and that you put it on the posts of your house and you teach your children. So we do those things, but are they more symbolic, or are they part of what's being Jewish? Is following certain things, doing certain things,
Some of it has
and
to be because other
yeah.
cultures have, like Sicilians growing up, we have the Maloiku.
Mm-hmm.
The Maloiku is somebody puts a curse on you, some kind of a curse
Mm.
on you. And then there's things you can do. That's why they wear those horns around their necks. If you've ever seen those little
Yeah.
horn things,
Okay.
or there's certain things that you could do with your hand in your pocket to ward off, if you think somebody's wishing you bad luck. I mean, all these cultures have these kinds of things
Right.
that they do,
Mm-hmm.
these superstitious kinds of things. So, I mean, let me ask Arnie, do you think Israel plays a role in the future like that, and some of these things like rebuilding the temple? What do you believe?
Hold on a second.
Hold on
He
a
stepped away.
second.
Arnie stepped away.
I'm just coming back. What was your
He's
question?
thinking about it.
What was your
I
question?
want to know what you think about Israel's role in the future as a nation.
Well, my whole life, I looked up to Israel as having this moral imperative, and it was fulfilling that role. It was the victim that kept winning these impossible struggles. And then just recently, it did a flip for me, and I'm not sure how it's justified or not. I don't want this to get into politics, but personally, my it's changing, and it has to do with the politics involved, and it's really made me sad.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know that's a discussion that we get into quite often of what we expect of Israel, why we feel Israel is important to us, and is it meeting our expectations? And
Not only
then you
that,
get into the politics of who is leading the country now, and you can put the mirror up and look back at ourselves and say the same thing. Does who's leading the country now? Does that reflect what as we're looking back on 250 years of American independence and an American government, an American style of doing things? Is what we look in the mirror now and reflect back what we have come to expect. And I think it's in the case of Israel, as Arnie says, we were brought up with that. I mean, who of us didn't go to Hebrew school and see the little blue and white pushkas on the desk, and bought trees and did as much as possible to
right.
to try to bring the land into a fruitful and a peaceful place to be. And then when we see things that are going on now that don't fit that pattern, what's our responsibility? And where do we fit?
To me, whether the question is whether it fits or not, whether we like the politics or not, what's amazing to me is how this little country, and I'm speaking historically now, seems to be so important in the world to Christians, to Muslims. I mean, even countries as far away as China, they get their oil from Iran, or, and Iran hates Israel. It just seems that this little tiny country and the Jewish people have always played a disproportionate place in the world, and it's very interesting to me. It makes me think that yes, it does have some kind of importance in in the progress of the world. It always seems to go back to this little, this place and the Jewish people. To me, that's just how I see it historically.
I keep hearing you describe that. I'm reminded. I think it was Robin Williams, one of his routines, where he said, "This is the promised land. Great, the only land in the entire Middle East that doesn't have any oil under it."
Yeah, exactly.
Gee,
That's
thanks.
it too. Yeah. So why does this little piece of land carry such importance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's at the
and that's.
crossroads. That's
Mhm.
it. It's
It's
at a historic crossroads.
You
That's
really think that's
the
just,
geopolitical
yeah,
situation
yeah, that's true.
has given it its destiny. But you know what I keep going back to in my brain, and it's like a cancer. The way imperialism worked in the world after World War One, when these countries were arbitrarily created and boundaries arbitrarily created. There was no Jordan, Iraq, Saudi Arabia. None of those countries existed,
It was just desert.
And they were
Yeah.
created, arbitrarily by which sheik could give the best deal to British Petroleum,
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
and look at the poor Kurds. They weren't even given a country, really,
yeah,
and this has caused horrible situation, in trying to make peace with Turkey. And, I don't think we could resolve these problems ever with the type of political system the world's running on.
Well, I don't want to. I don't want to get too political. But we are finished with the parsha, so if we're going to get political, I'll take us off the live stream. But first, Matan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, the last month the book club read a book by Noah Tishby, and she talks about this. And there's a concept in Islam called, I don't know how to pronounce it, but in English it's spelled WAQF. And it's sort of like a foundation, not a foundation of a building, but a foundation that, pays money out. And once something goes in that foundation, it can never be removed from the foundation. And supposedly the land that Israel occupies is part of the foundation that is promised to the Islamic community. Now you can say, well, isn't Spain promised to the Islamic community? Isn't India promised to the Islamic community?
yeah,
And she deals with that too. And the thing is, those things haven't been ruled by Muslims in such a long time that it's kind of faded away. The claims have faded away. But if you look there's a movie called about taking over a hotel in Mumbai. It used to be
Yeah.
Bombay.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what it's called. But the Muslims come in from Pakistan and they say, look what those infidels have taken from you. Looking at Mumbai.
Mm-hmm.
oh yeah.
Well, I'm going to take us off
But
the
the
live stream. I
Muslims
just want
weren't in
to.
Mumbai. There were Aryans there before.
Well, let's continue the conversation. But first,
Anyway.
I just want to mention next week we have a service, so we won't have a Torah reading. We will have a Torah reading, but it'll be part of the service, and it'll also be Shavuot. So we'll be observing Shavuot as well. Rabbi Shari will be leading us. Tomorrow we have the streaming of the documentary A Tree of Life, which I encourage you. It's a beautifully done documentary, but also afterward we have the opportunity to talk with Diane Rosenthal, whose brothers were two of the victims of the shooter. And she has spent much of her life in the last 8 years making sure that not only do people remember what happened, but also build on it to make sure that there are positive things that come out of this terrible tragedy. So it'd be a great opportunity to hear from somebody whose congregation went through the worst possible horrors, and how they've come through it, and how the community has come together to support them. So I think that it'll be a great opportunity. So I hope you'll be able to join us. The screening starts at 11:30, and then at 1 o'clock, Diane